Frontier has released this statement to us. Quote, the gate agent's issue with the passenger's mask simply related to its gaiter style, which she believed was not in compliance with our mask rules. It had absolutely nothing to do with the flag emblem on the mask. We welcome, respect, and revere our nation's flag, which is welcome aboard our aircraft at all times. Once the passenger was given a new mask by the boarding agent, he proceeded onto the aircraft without any issue. To be clear, he was never denied boarding.
I simply do not believe the statement from Frontier Airlines. I don't think they've been accountable through this entire incident. They've never once apologized to the Air Marshal and the issues that they created for him while he was boarding his mission. And it's just not acceptable. It's not good enough. A letter does not cut it.
Now, you told me this morning that airlines were impeding the progress, stopping, I think your words were, preventing air marshals from completing their mission, which their mission is to keep America's airlines safe and the passengers safe. Was this the only example that you can cite for us that when Air Marshal was impeded from getting onto a plane?
No, Chris. Recently, we had a second incident, and I can go over some of the details with that. It was with Frontier Airlines. We've not heard from them yet in regards to the second incident. But as this thing is starting to snowball, you can see to where this is growing in the aviation industry, where pro-law enforcement, pro-Trump, pro-Constitution, pro-flag supporters are being brought to the side and chastised over a flag mask that they're wearing. Not appropriate, Chris. We've got to stand up, and that's why I'm coming forward. That's why I called into your show this morning. We've got to stand up and address these issues that's happening in the aviation industry, because this is not a singular or by any means a one-dimensional issue. This is happening nationwide.
I want to be very clear about this. You, according to federal air officials, these officials that you're talking to are up there keeping us safe. These air marshals, they are running into this. Are you alleging this is systemic among multiple airlines and multiple incidents? Can you expand what you're hearing? And then, of course, tell us the airlines where these air marshals are experiencing their difficulties.
Well, it's in quite a few airlines. The ones that we have documented that are on the record with not only the agency, but with complaints regarding what's happened at Frontier, or those two that we've mentioned. What's so interesting about the Frontier or incident, the first incident that happened, was the Air Marshal was stopped at the boarding procedure, and there were 6 other passengers, and they were wearing Black Lives Matter masks that were allowed to pass the Air Marshal, get onto the aircraft, and by no means was anyone else. And there were also people that had gaiter-style masks on that aircraft. None of them were pulled to the side. No one else had an American flag mask on. He was the only one, and he was singled out. He chose at that time to complete his mission and not draw attention to himself, because, you know, they're supposed to be undercover. No one's supposed to know who they are. So he took the high ground, did his duty, got on the plane, and actually protected all the passengers, to include the Black Lives Matter mask wearers. And for that, he should be commended.
Yeah, well, okay, and I want to be very clear. You've mentioned Frontier a couple of times. Have you received word that any other airlines in the United States are impeding federal air marshals from doing their duty and protecting the flying public?
Chris, we haven't received that specific from any other airline other than Frontier at this moment. I can tell you that once the Frontier Airlines story broke, we have been inundated at the Air Marshal National Council with requests for assistance from employees that work for Delta Airlines and American Airlines. There is actually a behind-the-scenes competition and a bounty going on within the airlines themselves in regards to trying to find ways to give individuals mask violations. Their social media accounts are being searched prior to their coming to the airport. The companies are watching their social media accounts. And if there's someone particular, and now that we're talking about Rob O'Neill, it would make it suspect that maybe they knew who he was when he was getting on the plane with his mask, and they were looking to try to find a way to violate him and ban him from the airline. But we have been flooded with information from airline employees asking us for help because they feel stuck in this in this environment to where if they don't issue these mask violations to pro-Trump supporters, pro-Constitution, pro-flag individuals, they themselves are being written up. If there is, the company's also searching their social media accounts within the flight industry, and if the company sees that someone has an anti-BLM protest or some type of anti-BLM social media, they're giving a warning and they're being disciplined. If there's a second issue, they are being terminated.
All right, I want to get back to the employees here in a minute. I just want to put a wrap on the Air Marshals component of this. Do you believe that it is the Black Lives Matter anti-law enforcement culture that these airlines are adopting? In other words, since they are so pro-BLM, and of course Black Lives Matter is an organization that is anti-law enforcement, that is sweeping the nation right now in certain quarters. Do you believe these airlines are adopting an anti-law enforcement, anti-cop culture?
Absolutely, 100%. There is no doubt in my mind they're doing it. Okay.
Now, let me ask you about the complaints that you received from employees at the airlines. Are we talking 1 or 2, 3 or 4? You say you've been inundated. Give me the range of complaints from employees who believe they're being targeted, and what are their offenses? Is it simply because they are not on board with the Marxist Black Lives Matter movement?
It's exactly because they are not on board. They are not on board with that movement. They are pro-military. They believe in treating our veterans with respect. They believe in treating our law enforcement with respect. They are in no means trying to cause a confrontation with anybody that supports Black Lives Matter in the workplace. What's happening is because the companies of these groups like Delta and American, who have empowered the Black Lives Matter movement within their rank and file of their employees, these employees now are going out and harassing their coworkers because they don't agree with the message that's being sent in the aviation community supporting the Black Lives Matter movement.
All right, last question I have for you. When you and I talked this morning, you did make mention that individuals who are working for the airlines, who had expressed support for President Trump, are they being targeted by the airlines? And please name the airlines at which you've received complaints.
Yes, they are. We've received complaints from Delta and American. These employees, their social media accounts are being monitored by someone in their corporate security. They are being pulled to the side. They're being given warnings. They're being written up, and they are being targeted because they are pro-Trump supporters, and they're in fear of their job. They're in fear of losing their job.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.